Amen. I don't know who you are at all. And I don't know where you're coming from this morning. I don't know about the problems you have or the life that you've been living. I don't know about the people who hurt you or all the bad things that happened with you. And I don't know about the people who have cheated on you, the people that have stabbed you in the back. I don't know where you're going to be when you walk out this door. I don't know where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I have no idea. But what I do know is that whatever events have transpired that have led you to this point right now, you are here. You are right here, and you are hearing the sound of my voice. And I have your complete attention. And it would only seem right, it would only seem logical that I would have something significant to say, as if not to waste your time or my energy. So what I have to tell you are the most important words I could ever think to say, ever. There is one God above. He is all-powerful. He is all-knowing. He is ever-present. He created the world and everything in it. He created the universe and everything in it, its glories and its vast expansion. He set the stars in the sky and he hung the moon in its place. He created the natural and the supernatural realms. Created the birds and the animals, the plants and the trees, and everything in between. And he did it all for you. Each and every one of you. And as he created you, he gave you free will, freedom to choose. And that choice that you would make would be whether or not you would love him and appreciate him and recognize him for who he is and what he's done. But in our sinful decisions, mankind has chosen not to live how God had designed life. I mean, he is the author, the creator, the perfecter of life. He designed it for you to live it a certain way, and you've not done that. But it's not just your fault. Back in the book of Genesis, the first man and the first woman do the same thing. They choose to live differently than how God had wanted them to live. It's called sin. Sin, and sin separates mankind from God. It's basically you choosing a free will choice to do something differently than what God had originally designed for you to do. It's you choosing option B when God has clearly said, choose option A, please. This is the best way to live. But for whatever reason, we choose not to do that. And I have no idea why. Why do we do that? If we knew what the creator of the universe wanted from us, why do we choose to live differently? I think it's because we have a false delusion of what it means to be free. We think about freedom, and we think about, oh, I don't want to be under this oppressive God with all these oppressive rules and restrictions. I want to be free. We want freedom. But that's only because we're delusional to think about what freedom really is. We think that freedom is an absence of rules and restrictions. We think that freedom is not living under an oppressive God or something like that. Freedom is being able to do whatever I want to do. But freedom is not the absence of restrictions and rules. Freedom is not the presence of rules and restrictions. But freedom is the presence of the right rules and restrictions. The ones in accordance to how God made you. Look at the fish. We'll call him Frank. Everyone say hello, Frank.
Hello, Frank.
Frank is in a tiny bowl because he's a goldfish. And you may look at Frank going, Frank, you are under oppression. You are under tight restrictions. How dare he keep you in that bowl? What if Frank said, you know, I don't want to be in this bowl anymore. I want to go in the baptistry. Hundreds of gallons to fly around. I want to be in the baptistry. How many of you all think that Frank would have more freedom in the baptistry? No, seriously? He would have more freedom in the baptistry? No, well, yeah, I think so. There's hundreds of gallons. Frank, let's go in the baptistry. No, Frank, don't go. Don't go, Frank. Here's Flo, his counterpart. Just in case Frank died. always get 2 for this illustration. So Frank says, I don't want to live in this oppressive bowl of restrictions. I want to be in the baptistry. Here I go. I want to go. No, Frank, I'm going. Why not, Barry? Because what you don't know is that baptistry, to keep it clean, is laced with chlorine and chemicals. And that if you were to go in there, you would die. Oh, that's not freedom. That's death. I don't want that. Maybe he doesn't want to go to the baptistry. Maybe he says, I don't want to live under this oppressive rules and restrictions. I want to get out of the soil. Oh, yeah. I want to flap my fins all over the pew. That's what I want to do. But no, Frank, wait a minute. Hold on, Frank. You can't do that. Why not? Because you can't breathe out on the land. You'll suffocate. You'll die. That's not how you were designed for. Being able to get oxygen to your little fishy body means that you have to be in fresh water. Oh, okay. You see, when we restrict Frank to the tank, when we restrict Frank to a bowl of fresh water, that's actually when he becomes free. When he has certain rules and restrictions on his life. But see, we think that freedom is the absence of rules and restrictions, and it's not. It's the presence of the right rules and restrictions, the ones in accordance with how God made Frank. A fish is free when he is in water. A bird is free when he is flying through the air. What is mankind created for? And what is mankind free when we have the right set of rules or the right set of restrictions on our lives? It's not that freedom is not the absence of rules or restrictions, and freedom is certainly not the presence of rules and restrictions. I was about 15 years old when I had a teacher say to me, you can be anything you want to be. Wow, that sounded cool. If I could be anything I want to be, well, at the time I wanted to be a football player. Why? Because my dad was playing football, or my dad had played football. My friends were playing football, and they said, you're really crazy. You'd be really good at football. So, okay, so I started playing football. You want to guess what my position was? I was about 6 foot, 140 pounds, kind of like how I am now. And I played nose guard. I played defensive tackle. Why? Because I could run a 40 in about 4.5. I was extremely fast. I was really quick off the line, too. I could just get through there and sack the quarterback. I was good in 8th grade, but then I wanted to further my football career when I went to high school. Oh, goodness. I got there and people had just shot up like little weeds. They just got so much taller. They get so much bigger. So what I had to do, I had to discipline my body. I had to restrict myself to practice, to eating right, to eating carbs and proteins and all those types of things. I had to restrict my time to weightlifting. I had to bulk up. I had to get faster. I had to get meaner. I had to be in practice. I had to restrict myself because if I wanted to have the freedom to play football in high school, I had to restrict myself to certain ways. Certain ways of living, certain ways of spending my time. But the problem is, no matter how hard I trained, no matter how much bigger I thought I got when I looked in the mirror, I was still 6 foot and 140 pounds. I couldn't catch a ball. Coaches were like, here, try to catch this ball. No, I can't do it. The only thing I could do was play nose guard. But they didn't run a 5'3", they ran like a 4'4". So I had to play defensive tackle, and I was hitting up against some people like the size of Tony Bullock. They were huge. I couldn't do it. And a summer practice in, I hit a guy 3 times my size, and that rendered me from playing football forever. No matter how much I restricted myself to doing whatever I wanted to do, it still wasn't good enough. That's because freedom is not the absence of rules and restrictions. Freedom is certainly not the presence of rules and restrictions. Freedom is the presence of the right rules and the right restrictions, the ones in accordance to how God made you. If God created the fish for water and birds for the air, what did He create you for? What were you created for? You were created for relationships with other people and with you and God. That's what you were created for. That when you restrict yourselves to living in good relationships, not killing, not murdering, not stealing, not doing any of those things or committing adultery against your neighbor, when you live in the presence of the right restrictions, that is love towards your neighbor, not only does the Bible say we become truly free, but we become in a right relationship between us and God. The problem is that you've already sinned. You've already broken that relationship between you and God.